We're live. Welcome. Let's talk Broncos. Brewmastis, JR, Zach Seegers. Joey, I didn't want to mess up your last name. I felt it
No, I
coming. I just
appreciate
had
it.
to I had to lower it down. Welcome in. It's Monday. It's time for another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. We came in spicy today. Zach has a little announcement for you folks. So before we get started, turn it over to you, Sears.
Yeah, I just want to say, everybody, May website slowed down a little bit of a dead period on the NFL calendar. But today, in case you weren't in the loop, mandatory minicamp started back up. So we're going to have, more news, more Broncos happenings. Website's going to be cranking again. So yeah, head over there. There's actually an article linked in the description below. I wrote today about some players on the Broncos offense that are most likely to break out this season. So give that a look.
And if you feel so obliged, you can go on over to Twitter, retweet the pod. That's actually a note for my fellow co-hosts as they get their shit together. Let's get rolling. Answer some questions because we have some leftovers from the very robust question and answers we asked for last week. So we thought we'd roll it back and make sure nobody got left behind. Let's jump right into it. And this ties into the new article that's up over on letstalkbroncos.com. Go over there right now, bookmark it, do it now. From Mike, based on your definition, are there any playmakers on the Broncos aside from Marvin Mims? I'm going to throw this one over to Zach first.
I don't even know I guess Marvin Mims is a playmaker. It depends. That's such a lame answer. I don't, yes. Because Sutton is. Sutton is. I think Javonte Williams maybe could be. I think Estime maybe could be. I think Dulcich maybe could be. McLaughlin. I think McLaughlin's a playmaker. I think Mims is a playmaker. You just want to see it more consistently, much more consistently, much higher quantity with Mims. Honestly, same with McLaughlin. Sutton's probably the one established playmaker. I mean, that's the thing with Sutton. He's top 5 in the NFL in touchdowns. If you look at just like red zone isolated stats, he was the best red zone receiver in the league last year. But I don't even know if he was like top 30 in yardage. Because it's all like big splash plays with him. It was the big moments where he dominated.
Yes. I think there isn't many. I don't think there's many like that I would define as playmakers,
Give me your definition, Joey. Give me your definition.
When I think of playmakers, I think of guys that are explosive, guys that are going to make things happen on like explosive type plays that are going longer than maybe 30 yards consistently. Like that's their bag, is we're going to go big on that type of stuff. And if I'm looking at the Broncos offense, I think Marvin Mims is the playmaker. And I think something I want to say about Marvin Mims, because Mike's bringing him up, people are way too low on Marvin Mims right now. He had a rookie season where, yes, we only saw him win on one type of thing. That one type of thing also will keep him in the league for a really long time alone, and that was his rookie season. So can we please watch this dude develop a little bit? Can we go in the year 2 without talking about like we're down on Marvin Mims? I don't want to do that. That one trade is valuable in itself, and all we're looking for is a little development elsewhere, and it's going to help him. And that one thing he does do really good, which is going deep down the field, is going to help him in the other parts of his game. So I'm excited with that. But if I'm looking outside of that, Zach, I'm shocked you didn't bring up Javonte Williams. Like he didn't.
I said he could be one.
Oh, you did. Okay. I heard you say Estime. I didn't hear you say Javonte Williams. I think Javonte Williams is a dude that, we're a year off of that knee injury now. Can he get back to his normal self? That's the key there. Because if he gets back to his normal self, he's definitely a playmaker.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry.
No, Zach, I was going to throw it over to you because I think that you probably have a good a rebuttal to Joey's point.
Well, in the same way, I maybe screwed up Joey's chance to dunk on me there. He kind of screwed up my chances to dunk on him. I was going to ask, if playmakers are defined, as players that are consistently making these 30-plus yard plays, how many running backs can we truly define as playmakers? But I think I was being a little I don't know, well actually about it. I think on the pass catcher front, I agree with him. I think, you know, Sutton and Mims are probably the playmakers. Franklin, by the way, he hasn't been mentioned. He has the potential to be. I know generally we're lower on it, but I think even you, Joey, as someone lower on it than Franklin, or lower on Franklin, would recognize that what he does well is probably similar to Mims in the sense that it's explosive playmaking.
Yeah.
Well, if we go with it.
Go ahead, Bree. Sorry about that.
If we go to the no, you're okay. I am slow, and therefore it ruins the flow of everything. If we define playmaking abilities, though, of the ability to propel the offense into scoring situations, so whether it's by scoring or by assisting said scoring, I think it's awfully rude that you're leaving off somebody like a Quinn Miners, who has the propensity to open up that run game and really assist in playmaking abilities. So if you want to tie in the running backs, then you got to tie in a Quinn Miners, who is absolutely at the forefront of a run game attack. I think that's a playmaker that you both have to consider, but it depends on your definition. So, Zach, did you provide a definition of what playmaker is to you?
Yeah, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's someone that can create something that's not there. You know, create I don't want to keep using the word play or whatever, but create something positive when the defense has it covered up. I think in Javonte Williams' case, he's a playmaker in the sense you can have him dead to rights in the backfield and he can turn that into a 4 or 5 yard gain. And he turned, a dead play into a positive one. I think that's making a play that's what peak Javonte was doing. And he was getting himself in trouble with his vision too, but he was averaging, I think it was like 3.5 yards after contact per carry, which is crazy. That's like, he could get hit at the line of scrimmage and he's getting you, he's keeping you ahead of the sticks on every carry. So I think that's playmaking. Estime could fall in that bucket. McLaughlin, I think his speed and jitteriness allows him to, like that Bears highlight. If you look up his touchdown in the Bears game, that play looks dead to rights and he turned at a point and he shoots through a tiny little window and makes it a touchdown instead of, first and goal at the 7. I think that's playmaking. Sutton, his ability to moss people and get those feet down way downfield, even if it's like not the best throw. I think that's playmaking. With Mims, I think it's how he beats people downfield. And then also how he can make catches through contact in his own right. So I think there's a lot of different brands. Dulcich, when he's healthy, I think it's like finding the soft spots in the defense. It's tough. I think it varies from player to player, but it's making something when the play isn't there.
I just have to say before we move on, playmaking, a lot like the other terms we use in the NFL, I think a lot of it is bullshit. I really do, because we'll never call a running back with really good vision a playmaker. We'll never call a wide receiver just with really good, cool route running and good hands a playmaker. But a lot of these playmakers that can't do that stuff, we'll call playmakers. Stop it. I don't want to hear about any of that. Really, what this playmakers thing is pointing to, in my opinion, when people talk about this, it's who's exciting. That's really what people are talking about. I don't know if it's necessarily always the best thing, though. You know what I mean?
Dante says, uh-oh, Joey's about to pop off. Just hot take after it's a steady stream from Joey Richards, but that's what he's good at. Joey, I like that. Push back on the playmakers. It's like any buzzword, right? The next we're going to be talking about synergy and all that. Yada, yada. Let's jump into it and talk about why Josh Reynolds is going to be a productive playmaker. Tell us who's the most productive wide receiver and why will it be Reynolds? This is from Aaron Campbell, 4481 over on Twitter. Aaron, thank you for your question. And over to Joey, right back at you. Productive wide receivers, is Josh Reynolds up there for you?
Yeah, most definitely. I think Josh Reynolds is up there. He's exactly the guy that I was just talking about, like the what people want to call this guy a playmaker, but he's extremely consistent. So I think Josh Reynolds is a good wide receiver. He's been a good wide receiver in the NFL for quite a while, and I don't think that stops with the Broncos now. I could easily see him be one of the most productive, if not the most productive wide receiver on this team, especially if Courtland Sutton gets traded. Like Josh Reynolds is better than Courtland Sutton at more than a couple things. That is true. He is. Josh Reynolds is a very well-rounded wide receiver for the Broncos this next year, and I think he's going to be extremely productive. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with this comment a little bit. Like, I could most definitely see by the end of the season Josh Reynolds being the most pound-for-pound productive wide receiver. If I'm looking at receptions, yards type stats. Is he going to be the most important wide receiver? I think that might be a little of a different conversation.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't think he'll be most productive. I think he's going to be a very productive piece of the offense. I think people were kind of down on this signing, and I think it's because, Broncos fans' exposure to Reynolds is probably him falling apart in the NFC Championship game. And I saw some complaining about him, folding up in the bright lights. Excuse me. The Broncos are a long way from worrying about a receiver folding up in the bright lights. If his kryptonite is championship games and Super Bowls, which I mean doesn't look true. I think he had a touchdown in the Super Bowl when he was with the Rams. But if that's his kryptonite, okay, the Broncos can move off of him, a couple seasons from now, and we can have that conversation then. But yeah, to Joey's point, he's a very useful player. Like I think the receiving points are apt. He's going to, I think, be a great tool for Bo Nix because he's going to be a guy that wins early in the snap, unlike Sutton, who's, winning downfield more often than not. Bo Nix, again, maybe this is a product of the Oregon offense, but what we've most recently seen of him is him wanting to get rid of the ball fairly quickly. That might be a case in the Reynolds will be the most productive wide receiver point. And also he's just I think he'll be a solid blocker inside with his size. He's a willing blocker. Dan Campbell was not going to have receivers out there that weren't willing to help in the run game. So I think that'll help the vision or the identity the Broncos are trying to build.
Yeah, he's coming off also his second. I don't know if people are really talking about this. He's coming off his second best season in the NFL receiving yards wise. He had 608 yards last year. Go look at how many yards Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton had. Not much more. like Josh Reynolds is going to be a useful wide receiver for the Broncos.
I agree there. I also want to point to the glaringly obvious.
I want to point that out. But anyways, continue to go. I saw Zach was talking and nothing was coming out. Anyways, continue, Bree. Sorry about that. It's one of those
things. Did we catch him? Did we? So we have to point it out. So it happened. I only got my point off because Zach couldn't be heard, which is actually fantastic. I'm moving on.
I was trying to just before we move on. I was trying to correct my Josh Reynolds point. He did not score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, as Broncos run tree pointed out.
Oh, okay, that's fair. But I also want to point out that I do like Chris's point about not underrating Courtland Sutton as probably the most prolific wide receiver on the Broncos team. But Tim Patrick is back from injury. Troy Franklin is going to have undeniable chemistry. What's to stop either one of those two individuals from being productive? Because quarterback play is no longer my biggest concern right now for this Denver Broncos team. We don't know what it is, but it hasn't been proven to be the scariest part of this roster. And so I don't know. I think there's a lot of questions and answers. Joey, I can feel your light bulbs already going off with why Troy Franklin may be not in contention there. But real quick, yes or no, believe in Timmy P for this upcoming year. Number 12's back at it. I know he's coming off those back-to-back injuries, but I still have hope.
Yeah, no, I have hope too. I am looking forward to seeing Tim Patrick this year. This is one of those ones, it's damn near impossible for me to predict what's going to be going on with Tim Patrick. I don't know. I mean, we're talking about 2 seasons now. Tim Patrick, both, and it's not the same injury. I'm finally recovered from this injury. I had this big knee injury and then I had this other big knee injury. You know what I mean? I don't know. I have no idea. I think last time we saw Tim Patrick, if we get that version, he's the best wide receiver in this group. Do I think we're going to get that? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Zach, I remember arguing with Zach about who's better, Tim Patrick or Courtland Sutton, two off seasons ago on the podcast. So I like, man, Tim Patrick would have been really, really good. I hope he's back 100%. I kind of doubt it. You just don't see guys like come off of those injuries and just be fine. We saw with Courtland Sutton, who suffered one knee injury, and we're finally getting to see Courtland Sutton of old this last season. So I don't know. I'm in wait and see camp. I want to see it in training camp.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be extremely telling when we're out there, how he's moving, and also those preseason games if he gets any action there. Like, just how does his movement look? He's not a player where we need to see I don't need refinement in his game or anything. It's going to be like, can he stay healthy? Or not even can he stay healthy? What does he look like after two, very serious injuries? I don't know. I don't feel optimistic, if I'm being honest. I think, if he is a legitimate contributor for the Broncos this season, I think that's a W. Like, I think I'm not expecting him to start whatsoever. I think he'll be, probably like the fifth receiver on the roster in terms of like targets is kind of my vision.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, but fourth, like, I don't know. I guess there's not really a clear number 4. I don't like, we're talking about some really serious injuries that like just an Achilles injury. There's not many receivers that have torn their Achilles and come back and been like, the same receiver again, let alone, Achilles ACL back-to-back seasons. Unfortunately, I hate to say it. But I really think if he's just a contributor, like that's a win. If he can replace little Jordan Humphrey on the roster as like an upgraded version of that I think is a win. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's concerning. As for Troy Franklin, I think the knock on him would be obviously the rookie aspect. And then, I think he's behind Marvin Mims right now in that depth chart. And I think he's going to be competing with Marvin Mims for a lot of those like snaps and opportunities. Even if they do figure out a way to be on the field at the same time, I don't think that'll be the primary look. And so I think those guys will kind of cannibalize each other's production some.
I think there's a lot of versions of Tim Patrick this next season, though, that are better than Troy Franklin in year one. And it's not just the rookie aspect of it all. It's honestly a skill set entering the NFL. It's not the youth. It's that, like, with at least Tim Patrick, I feel comfortable with him catching the football. Like, some of that type stuff. So I think he has a better chance at being the wide receiver 4 than Tim Patrick, being the 4th targeted wide receiver than Troy Franklin. So yeah, I would say Tim Patrick has a good shot at least that.
Okay. I was laughing at Dante because that was a really funny comment, but it had nothing to do with anything that's going on. I want to see if Jolene.
I didn't.
Don't address it.
It's from Dante, so we know they're not trolling too hard. What I actually think it was the hose turning on outside of my window, and the water turning on was a very high-pitched noise. Anyways, Colorado Jolene asks over on Twitter, who's your favorite rookie in this class, and what's your favorite trait about him? Could be a character trait or a physical trait. I like how this one isn't relying solely on football, because a lot of times, and we've been talking about this lately, there's a whole person behind the athlete that we're discussing. Zach, I want you to give me your favorite rookie or your favorite trait from a rookie, either personal or physical trait.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Abrams Drains, and I'm going to go with his ball skills. I really like his ball skills. I think that is a really fun ability to have in a corner. Obviously you love to get the interceptions. Those absolutely change the game, but even, breaking up a pass that can lead to a interception from someone else. I just think those splash plays are so valuable. And I think that's more and more kind of the way defense is trending. Where I think the two philosophies right now are kind of like Vic Fangio sitting back and letting them nickel and dime you and hope they just make a mistake along the way, or kind of this like more Brian Flores philosophy. I think Vance Joseph falls in this, where you're, pressuring hard and trying to create I think that Bo Nix can rent a car. That's pretty brutal. But I think that's the way defense is trending. I think it's trending towards, knocking the offense off balance by getting just one big play on him, whether that be a sack or a pressure leading to a big takeaway or an interception. I think we saw like the Cowboys kind of leaning on that some recently and having a lot of success with it. And I think Abrams' strengths fits that well. And I think the Broncos need a cornerback opposite Surtain. I think that cornerback opposite Surtain is going to get a lot of work, see a lot of targets, and having that be a guy that, okay, you know what, maybe he's going to get burned sometime, but he's also going to flip the field for the Broncos is something I like.
I like that one. Yes, that's a good one to point out, Zach. Mine is Esteme's vision. His vision to me is almost damn near elite level coming into the NFL, and it's something the Broncos lack right now. I don't think they have a ball carrier that isn't as much that isn't a big tell that has the vision he has to complement Javonte Williams. So I would go with that. Secondly, I also want to just point out maybe this isn't necessarily like a trait or anything, but it's a move. Jonah Ellis's inside spin is elite. That's something to keep out for. His inside spin move. I love that about him. His ability to beat offensive linemen on the inside.
I'm also going to point to Audric as well, but not just for his football ability, but his dominant physical presence is something that you kind of just are really excited by. Like that, yeah. The man is a specimen, a beast, and I'm kind of excited to see what that means when you match it with a football play. Also, he seems pretty genuine and happy, and I don't know. It makes you kind of want to root for those guys because they seem like really cool individuals. So I'm going with that. It's an easy answer, but Bo made me feel a little intimidated, and I don't know how to feel about that. So I wasn't going to point out anything there. If you want to see the funny comments that are making me break down and getting a little distracted, you got to go on over to YouTube and search letstalkbroncos.com or Let's Talk Broncos over on YouTube. We're live right now. The chat's popping off and they're hilarious per usual. So thanks guys for keeping me laughing as we're trying to drive this show. Let's jump on over. And thanks, Jolene, for your question. We always appreciate your interactions with us. Rich C over on Twitter asked, offensive line, will they regress or do better? And then question 2, so he gets a 2-fer apparently, because that's how we do these things. Will we do better pressure from our IDL this season, yes or no? So Joey, I'm going to toss question 2 over to you first. And then Zach, I'm going to give question A to you. Does that make sense? Yes. Understood the rules. I mean, you guys can rebuttal back and forth. I want to start with question 2 with Joey.
Okay. Yeah. Will we see better pressure from the interior defensive line this year? Yeah, I think so. I do think we see better pressure from the interior defensive line this year. I think like John Franklin Myers, and then even any of our edge rushers taking any sort of step forward helped that happen. And I think there's a slew of edge guys that could do that, like Benito, Baron Browning. Like we have a slew of young edge players that could be better this next season. So I do think that Zach Allen was really good last year. I don't think it was highlighted enough. We still have DJ Jones. Like our interior defensive line, our starting group is pretty solid. If our edge group takes any step forward, I anticipate that being better. So I do think our interior defensive line pressure will be a lot better than it was last year. Last year was atrocious.
Yeah, and Zach Allen is only 26 and has gotten better year over year for most of his career. I mean, maybe there was like 1 year in there where he's kind of plateaued, but for the most part, he's consistently improved. I don't think it's impossible to think he could hit another level, even if it's just like more comfortability with the players around him and, playing in Denver. Obviously he has scheme familiarity from his time with Vance Joseph before. And then, the John Franklin Myers point is huge. I think the best part of John Franklin Myers' game is the ability to create pressure. And while, I do think there's still depth concerns on the defensive line, swapping out Jonathan Harris for John Franklin Myers is night and day. Like, that's going to greatly improve this team's ability to create pressure on the interior. I also think it's possible that Jonas Griffith getting more, actually, I don't know if it'll improve it. Because Josie Jewell is pretty good at creating pressure from the inside linebacker position, but that is a strength of Jonas Griffith's game as well. And I think we'll see a good bit of him this year.
Right back to you on the offensive line, Zach. Regrets would do better.
Totally blew the game. Choose to the normal flow. My bad. I think they have to do. Man, that's the tougher one. I think they'll probably regress. But I think they'll still. I think they'll do better. I think they'll do better. But they'll probably be a little worse. And that's because they have a quarterback that's not going to sandbag them for the entire season. It is so hard to play offensive line with Russell Wilson as your quarterback. So that alone, I think, will help them play better.
But you lose your anchor. That's hardy.
What?
You're losing your anchor. Losing Lloyd, I mean, I agree with you. How much are you attributing to that, right? Like, when you talk about it, you're going to say, well, that wasn't on the offensive line. Hopefully you'd notice when it's the quarterback's issue, but losing Lloyd, that scares the hell out of me.
I mean, I think it's the easiest position to hide on the offensive line. I think you've got one really good guard on next to him and another really highly paid guard next to him that you're hoping improves. I don't think and also Lloyd Cushenberry became really good last year, but he was a problem area the first 3 years of his career. I don't think it's crazy to think that maybe Zach Strief has developed Forsyth to be comparable, or at least passable as a center. I think finding a passable center is the thing you can kind of get away with on the offensive line in the NFL. Now I am worried. I think it could be a major problem and it could be blowing up a lot of plays this year if it goes really bad. But I personally, I think Forsyth will be okay. I don't think he'll be great. I think he'll probably be subpar, but I don't think he'll be terrible or like a major problem point. But I do think he'll be worse than Cushenberry was last year. I think there's a good chance Powers and McGlinchey are a little better just because the offense, I think, will lean more into their strengths. But Garrett Bowles, I'm not sure. I think he's been pretty up and down his entire career. He had that breakout season in 2020 and then kind of came back to the pack in 2021 and then came back to the pack even further early in 2022 before his injury. And then last year has this career year. He's been up and down throughout his career, and last year was maybe the best one of his entire career. I think it's hard to imagine he duplicates that back-to-back seasons.
So, Zach, the question was not will they look better, will they be better? That was the question. Russell Wilson made them look bad, but will they be better?
Do better.
It's the same shit. What are you talking about? They will not do better.
You're not going to have Russell Wilson taking 1 million sacks.
Nah, but Russell Wilson didn't make them do anything, right? Russell Wilson didn't make them do anything.
Well, he did make them work harder. He did make them have to compensate for his bullshit. So
that part's true. But will they play better or will they not is a completely different question. I am leaning to that they will not play as good specifically for this one reason. I think the starters will play similar to what they did last year outside of the center position, but injuries. No one's talking about the injuries. The injuries are not going to go that way this next season. Broncos barely got injured on their entire starting offensive line last year, which is an extreme rarity. I wouldn't bet on that at all. So, yeah, I don't think the offensive line will be as good.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Okay. Well, I disagree, but it's nothing with what's happening right here. It's the chat. It's driving me crazy. I miss those days. I miss the days in which the chat got so absolutely absurd that there was no way for me to get around it. Again, we're live over on YouTube. Please ask a question if you would like to do so. AKA Snack asks. That's really hard. If you look at that, it's almost like you should read it as a Snacks asks. Anyways, over on Twitter, where do you project the floor and the ceiling to be for the Broncos this season? I assume this person means the record. I still feel like it's way too early for us to give official projections and predictions for how the season is going to go, but we do have the schedule out, and I'm comfortable with putting something out there. But I think the ceiling is like 7 or 8 wins.
The ceiling for me is 9. The floor for me is 3.
Nice.
That's what I would have my floor ceiling at. I think 9 would be incredible. That's where Bo Nix, he looks like a rookie, but he's showing a ton of promise. Your offensive line is staying healthy. All of that. Your floor is Bo Nix that doesn't look very great. You have injuries, all of that type of stuff, but you still are able to pull some out of your ass. So yeah.
Yeah, it's I would say the same thing. I think it's 9, and maybe you can back into a playoff spot with that. I think it's going to be hard in the AFC just because there's so many good quarterbacks. But yeah, I think I can't see more than 9. And yeah, it's Bo Nix works out great. I think it's Javonte looks like old Javonte. I think it's a lot of these weapons pan out. Maybe that's Tim Patrick looking like old Tim Patrick. Maybe it's Marvin Mims taking a big step. Maybe it's Troy Franklin being a home run. Greg Dulcich being fully healthy. I think you need a handful of those things to happen. And then I think you need the turnover luck game to stay in your favor on the defensive side. I don't think this defense is very talented. I think they're going to try and make up for it by rolling the dice a lot and playing a very aggressive style of defense. If they roll a lot of 6s, or a lot of nat 20s for my nerds out there, maybe, it's enough to get them to that 9-win mark. But it's going to be white knuckling it to get there. Floor, I'll say a little higher than Joey. I'll say 4. Maybe I'm sipping the Kool-Aid and I'm going to end up in Jonestown, but I think this coaching staff is strong enough that they'll win at least 4 games. That's my one thing. And I get I think they'll do better than 3.
I respect that, Zach. I do want to say this though, real quick. What the hell happened? Before we drafted Bo Nix, everyone was talking about the Broncos might have the first pick next year. What about if they get the number 1 pick? Because that's how bad the roster is. They could get the number 1 pick. And now we drafted Bo Nix, and everyone's floor is raised. Everyone's ceiling is raised. I still need to see it. I like Bo Nix. I still want to see it, though. The roster really hasn't changed that dramatically. Oh, yeah, they got John Franklin Myers. That's a cool addition. They did some small things. But what the hell has raised their floor so high? What is it? What is it? Are we now all in on, Bo Nix is that guy, and I don't have any question. Well, why is the floor so much higher all of a sudden? Sean Payton was the coach before and after. People were talking about first pick, and now people are talking about playoffs.
I mean, I'll tell you, it's the perception of Jarrett Stidham. I mean, that's what it is. I don't think they'll be that different in 2024. I think if the Broncos started Jarrett Stidham this year or a rookie quarterback that most people projected to go in the 3rd round, I don't think that'll be appreciably better than Jarrett Stidham. There's a chance it totally is. He's a mystery box. There's a wide range of outcomes there. But I don't think it's ultimately that different. And that's why I don't think my floor projection has changed much. I think, on the other hand, most of this fan base believes Jarrett Stidham is considerably worse than Zach Wilson. And he was the starting quarterback. And now actually they thought Zach Wilson was the starting quarterback. And now, I mean, Bo Nix, who's again a mystery box, but I think fans are going to generally see the optimistic side of that mystery box. And compared to Zach Wilson, that's a rosy outlook in terms of both ceiling and floor.
I don't think my floor's raised too much either, but you did catch me in this optimistic conundrum of if it's not 3 and 7 is my ceiling, then maybe it's 4. I did want to read off some of these because I like when people participate. 17 and no ceiling. We got 7 wins in a Super Bowl, which interesting. I got 9 from Dante. Floor is like a 5. Christopher Hart says 3. And then he just keeps getting progressively.
He's questioning me on my. Shout out to Christopher.
Oh, 3 was a question mark. Okay, all right, I like it. Playoffs, and then Dante screams playoffs again. Good points from Seegers.
No, they weren't.
Don't know any other kind.
No, they weren't. They were terrible points. We need. Please let Zach come on here with a good take. Beat me in something, please, once.
Wait, I think you guys should fight in something that's a little bit more entertaining. Like we get the pod beefs all the time. We get the back and forth. We get you guys debating really great questions and sides of issues, which I don't know how it always happens, but it does. But I want to see you guys compete at something different, like a game of chess, but the stakes are a lot higher. Like I'm talking like weird high, like the person who gets checkmated gets lit on fire.
Bree, I don't know how many times I have to tell you this. We're not going to play Russian roulette. We're just, I keep trying to bring it up in these roundabout ways. We don't want to do it.
You didn't like the straightforward attempt, so I thought maybe I could just work it in there and it would be fun. But you know what? You don't want to provide entertainment to our listeners. That's fine.
Yeah. I don't know what either of you guys are on talking about Russian roulette, lighting yourself on fire, all this craziness. We're going to get demonetized. 1, let's start there. 2, I'm more of a challenge Zach to NCAA when that comes out type guy. I don't know about all this other stuff everyone's talking about. But
speaking of everybody, I don't know how crossplay will work on the new college football game. I haven't done research on it. If there's a Xbox League, we'll have to ask probably someone else to monitor that because I think Joey and I are both PlayStation. Or no, you're Xbox. Okay, so Joey can monitor that one and I'd monitor the other one if we can't crossplay. But yeah, we're definitely hoping to do maybe some streaming of the college football game, maybe some competitions, maybe a public league that all you guys can join, get the Power 2 rolling with the SEC and the Big Ten. So yeah, stay tuned for that. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you get the game.
Do we have a league going on in the Discord? Is this what this ask is from D Bronx?
Not yet. We have started to have preliminary discussions about it, but it's coming. It will happen once the game comes out.
I tweeted it out. I said, if anyone wants those problems, they can get it. Whether it be on stream or not on stream, I'm available. Anyways, I just want to get that out there to all of our viewers. Hit me up if you want it. We're doing high stake bets, the whole situation. Anyways,
I'm just gonna start saying I'm gonna run everyone off the sticks like a certain somebody. So if you want a piece of this, then let's go. I got this. I got a PlayStation. I'm in. Cal said Bree's character keeps getting stopped at the metal detector. I'm gonna pierce the hell out of my particular PFP that I get to customize, kind of like a Dennis Rodman crossover. Biggest tight end on the planet and pierce to high hell. Anyway, we digress. I digress, honestly. This is all my fault. I'm going to get to one more question over here, and I want it to be about typically answering the question that I have along the offensive line. Chase Wellner asks over, is the fan base too quick to assume Alex Forsyth will win the starting role at center? I think you made good points as to it happening, but we are making, I guess, not extreme assumptions because of the tie-in to Bo Nix, but there's not a whole lot else on the roster where I would feel comfortable. So maybe, Zach, you can lead in a little bit here why the assumption may be on point, but it is also a very quick assumption considering we've yet to see a lot of these guys under center.
Yeah, I mean, I think the assumption's fair because the Broncos messaging from the moment they've drafted Alex Forsyth was that we see this guy as a future starter. you know, as early or as recent as this offseason. There's both Sean Payton quotes and George Payton quotes where they're talking about Alex Forsyth as a starting level player. I haven't seen quotes like that about Luke Wattenberg, but that would be his biggest competition. I talked about Alex Forsyth in my breakout players piece, and a lot of it was this. Like, I think he is just going to be set up to have the opportunities. Again, maybe Wattenberg beats him out for that job, but I think Forsyth has the inside track. Again, just kind of purely from the quotes and how it seems. But yeah, I do think they might be a little fast to assume he's going to be good. Like, I think he'll be okay, just because the other part of the projection piece is their only additions this season on the interior or off season on the interior offensive line are Calvin Throckmorton and Sam Mustipher, who last time they've played football, it was bad football. That to me speaks to, I don't know, some level of confidence in what they already have. I don't think you're signing Mustipher or Throckmorton to be your starter. I think those are like bench / bailout options in case the Forsyth Wattenberg experiment goes completely south. So I think it's really a 2-horse race between him and Wattenberg. I think he's probably got the inside track. So I think the opportunities are going to be there. Who knows if he's good, though? Who knows? He's a 7th round pick who hasn't played half of NFL football, meaningful NFL football.
So maybe, like, as the question asks, is the fan base too quick to assume that he'll be the starter? Probably. Yeah. I think people are just throwing it out there that he's a starter. Luke Wattenberg is more athletic. He has more NFL experience. He's Alex Forsyth has been yet to play in an NFL regular season game, to my knowledge. Luke Wattenberg has on multiple occurrences. At the center position, it's really important that you're making these downfield-esque blocks. Luke Wattenberg's a very athletic player, and I know he can probably be able to do that, or he has more potential to do that than Alex Forsyth. Yeah, we're probably being too quick to assume that he's going to win it. I think the probability is more likely that he does, but the assumption that he is, yeah, we're too quick there.
Yeah.
Zach, a quick head nod if I can hype Wednesday's show.
Oh, okay. I was like, why are you even asking that? Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, you can. That's not a secret.
For fuck's sake. Wednesday we'll have Hank on from DNVR as he joins us to break down. Oh,
that guy. Wilson. I thought it was Russell Wilson.
What did you got the other group message. Yeah, it's got the 2 people. I mean, same. I think Hank could probably hold his own out there. We'll have Hank on from DNVR for Let's Talk Broncos on Wednesday's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm really excited about Wednesday's ep. We're going to ask him all about what's going on at OTAs. Media is allowed on select days. I don't think they were out there today, but they were out there yesterday, but they were out there today. So it'll be exciting to pick his brain. We are on the up and up. Training camp is just around the corner. We are going to be hitting the NFL season like a freight train. So stick close with Let's Talk Broncos as we bring you all the coverage. Really, I was going to say in necessity, but honestly, it's beyond necessity. You need to make sure you're subscribed, like the channel, leave a comment, and make sure to hashtag it. Let's make Zach cry. You guys have been wonderful. Thanks for all the chats, the participation, the questions, the laughs, and we'll see you on Wednesday's episode. Bye, everybody. I forgot to hit the button.